Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Newshour, India's voice to the world. I'm Amritpal Singh. Coming up in the next 1 hour, Prime Minister Modi speaks with Iran's president, calls for shipping lanes to remain open and secure, condemns the attacks on energy infrastructure. Trump signals possible winding down of Iran war. 22 European and Gulf countries pledge support for safe passage through Strait of Hormuz. UK says Iran fired missiles at the British-American Diego Garcia base in the Indian Ocean. US and Israel hit at Iran's Natanz nuclear facility. No leakage of radioactive materials found so far. US and Ukrainian negotiators to hold talks in Miami today amid escalating tensions as Russia attacks Kiev's oil and gas facilities in Poltava. Eid-ul-Fitr, marking the culmination of month-long Ramzan fasting, celebrated across India and other parts of the world. President Murmu and Prime Minister Modi extend greetings. The situation in West Asia is rapidly escalating, with tensions reaching a dangerous new high. Fresh strikes, retaliatory attacks and rising military posturing are deepening fears of a wider regional conflict. As global powers step in and critical security concerns grow, the crisis now threatens to spiral far beyond the region. Here's more in this report.
The conflict in West Asia is spiraling with no signs of de-escalation. Israel has now signaled a major escalation, warning that joint strikes with the United States against Iran will intensify significantly in the coming days.
This
week, the intensity of the strikes carried out by the IDF and the US military against the Iranian terror regime and against the infrastructure it relies on will be stepped up significantly. The campaign led by US President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will continue. We are determined to continue leading the attack against the Iranian terrorist regime, to behead its commanders and to thwart its strategic capabilities until any security threat to the state of Israel and to US interests in the region are removed.
The escalation follows a high-stakes strike on Iran's Natanz uranium enrichment facility. The UN nuclear watchdog confirmed the attack but reported no rise in off-site radiation levels even as investigations continue. Iran fired ballistic missiles towards the US-UK base in Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean but failed to hit its target. It is noteworthy that the United Kingdom has allowed Washington to use its key military bases to target Iranian missile capabilities, threatening shipping routes in the Strait of Hormuz. US President Donald Trump has claimed significant progress, saying that Iran's military and nuclear capabilities have been severely degraded. He also hinted that Washington may soon begin winding down operations even as tensions remain high. On the diplomatic front, Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke with Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian, calling for peace, stability and the protection of critical infrastructure and global shipping lanes. Taking to social media platform, Prime Minister Modi wrote, "Spoke with President Dr. Masoud Pezeshkian and conveyed Eid and Navroz greetings. We expressed hope that this festive season brings peace, stability and prosperity to West Asia. Condemned attacks on critical infrastructure in the region, which threaten regional stability and disrupt global supply chains. Reiterated the importance of safeguarding freedom of navigation and ensuring that shipping lanes remain open and secure. Appreciated Iran's continued support for the safety and security of Indian nationals in Iran." Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin has reaffirmed Moscow's support for Tehran, calling Russia a loyal friend and a reliable partner during the crisis. In a statement, Kremlin said Vladimir Putin wished the Iranian people to overcome the harsh trials with dignity and stressed that in this difficult time, Moscow remains a loyal friend and a reliable partner. On the ground, the conflict continues unabated. Israel says Iran launched fresh missile attacks while Saudi Arabia intercepted 20 drones over its oil-rich eastern region. In Iraq, a drone strike killed an intelligence officer in Baghdad, underscoring the widening arc of this conflict. With military escalation intensifying, global powers are taking sides and critical energy routes are under threat. The West Asia conflict is entering a far more dangerous phase, with implications that could ripple across the world. Bureau Report, DD India.
And India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar also spoke with his Iranian counterpart Abbas Araghchi on Saturday. The External Affairs Minister conveyed greetings for Navroz and Eid. Both leaders held conversation on the latest development regarding the conflict and its implications for the larger region. And for more on the story, I'm joined by my colleague Vinod Kumar, who's reporting from Dubai. Hi Vinod, how serious is the attack on the Natanz facility? Iran says the damage is superficial, there is no radiation detected, but Donald Trump is claiming that Iran's nuclear capabilities have been significantly degraded. What are you picking up on the ground?
Well, Amritpal, any attack on a nuclear facility is definitely serious. And this claim of Donald Trump is actually genuinely contested and maybe contested also by Tehran. This is actually not the first time that this particular facility is being attacked. US-Israeli forces struck this Natanz enrichment plant during the first week of this war itself. On February 20th, they have struck. March 1st and 2nd, they have a double tap striking there. And today is actually the third time that this facility has been struck. During the first strike, the International Atomic Agency had said that everything is hunky-dory. We are fine. There is no radiation leakage. Now, Iran's Atomic Energy Organization has also confirmed that the enrichment site amounted to the attacks amounts to criminal attacks, but there is no further damage. There is no further radiation leak. So what's happening here? See, first we have to see that this is actually historically this particular facility has been targeted multiple times. Many people might not be knowing it. In 2010, this facility was hit by a computer bomb called Stuxnet. That was a US-Israeli cyber attack that physically destroyed 1/5 of that time's centrifuges. And that time also there was a claim that this facility is completely done. And in 2020, there was an assassination of the Iran's nuclear chief, and multiple fires were reported. Then the major strike came in 2025 on the 12-day war. That time, not only Natanz, Fordo and Isfahan facilities were struck by Iran, by Israeli-American forces, by the B-52, that bunker buster bomb. And that time also Trump declared this program is completely obliterated. And their defense secretary also claimed that this is set back by years. And the same was acknowledged by IDF spokesperson. But after that, then came the intelligence reports in December 2025. Then that time they understood that this facility has been struck, the facility has been degraded, but not completely obliterated. Then there were media reports that saying that Natanz, Fordo is significantly damaged, but Natanz is degraded, but not completely obliterated. See, and one more thing that we should understand that what the US is trying to achieve here is to eliminate Iran's nuclear program. They have already achieved 60% uranium enrichment. Uranium itself cannot be destroyed by any means because it is elemental in nature. The only way of destroying uranium is to undergo fission using in a nuclear reactor or an atomic bomb. So that 400 kilogram to 500 kilogram nuclear material, where it is gone, no one knows.
So you're saying, basically you're saying that they are attacking the facility. Uranium cannot be destroyed. Whatever they've enriched remains. So basically you attack the fusion reactors or the fission reactors, and that's the damage you do.
Yes, that's a fission reactor. See, basically, to make an atomic bomb, you need to have uranium-235 at the purest form. In natural conditions, uranium-238 and uranium-235 comes in a mixed bag. You need to
Right.
separate uranium-235 by using centrifuge and enrich to 97%.
Right.
They have already achieved 60%, but that uranium is elemental. Uranium or any other atom like hydrogen or helium cannot be destroyed. It violates the law of conservation of mass and energy, and it'll violate the law of first law of thermodynamics. You cannot do that.
Okay.
But the facilities can be destroyed. So Trump is claiming at one point, all these times, like 2025, even in 2010, US had claimed that this facility has been destroyed. But it will only set back by a few months or by a few years. And these are all closely guarded secret. Even the United States does not know how long they have dug the tunnels, how deep they have dug the tunnels. The 2025 report says that it is only the program is only taken back by only by 3 or 4 months. Initial report was it was completely obliterated, but this is actually a closely guarded secret that no one will ever know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Also, Vinod, Donald Trump has signaled winding down of military operations against Iran. Israel says coming days would see increased strikes on Iran. Neither is Iran backing down. It's killed the Iraqi officer. It's attacking the Gulf countries. Saudi today said 20 drones intercepted. How do you read the situation? What should we make out of these statements?
Well, this is actually a classic case of game theory. 3 players are there, and all 3 of them are claiming to be winning, and none of them are willing to stop. And you have to see the multiple contradictory signals that is coming out of Washington. Trump is saying winding down, but the war machine is actually disagreeing. Yesterday, what did they do? Pentagon claimed $200 billion from the Congress for fighting this war. The same time, USS Tripoli has already started traveling from Okinawa in Japan to Iran with 2,500 Marines in it. Today morning, there was a report that USS Boxer and 2 other amphibious ships are sailing with another 2,500 Marines. So around 5,000 Marines are now on the way to Iran. Most probably, this will be for a ground invasion.
So this is the 2,500 on the Tripoli, on USS Tripoli, and
and another set is coming from United States itself. That's USS Boxer plus 2 amphibious ships. So totally 5,000 people. But 5,000 people will not be enough to have a ground invasion to Iran. Most probably, what they will be doing is they will be having a ground invasion at Karg. So, multiple contradictory reports are coming. So, why Trump is claiming this? See, today oil prices have crossed 115. After this, Trump's claim that he is winding down the attack, the oil prices cooled a bit. And the most credible reading is actually to release the pressure valve of the market. Trump actually, I believe he is trapped. He cannot end the war on his terms unless he breaks the Iran's chokehold on the Gulf of the Strait of Hormuz. But reopening the forts by these Marines will at the Strait will risk their lives because they are directly at the line of fire of Iran's artillery, Iran's rocket fire, and Iran's missile.
So it looks like as if he's just soothing the market sentiment and trying to cool.
That's what I'm reading from here. The same goes with Israel also. Israel claimed that they have more locations to strike. Iran is giving rhetoric again and again that they'll be attacking Ras Al Khaimah here in UAE. They won't wind down, and all these 3 parties does not want to end the war. Everyone wants to end the war in their own terms. So this is actually a classic case of 3-player game theory, and what I believe, this is actually one of the rare occasions where United Nations can raise to the occasions, and it's up to the diplomatic table that this war will end. And the major casualty here is actually diplomacy. See, before this war has started, before February 28, Oman's foreign minister had made a revealing statement that Iran has agreed to all the IAEA conditions. Despite that, the bombs have fallen. So diplomacy was the first casualty in this in this war, and then we still have an option for diplomacy if the UN takes charge over here and bring all the 3 parties to the table and open the Strait of Hormuz. And
Okay, Vinod, did ever UN take charge there? But yeah, I mean that's the only way out that right now
that's
it
the most
seems.
sanguine way of thinking about how the war should end.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, it's a very concerning situation for all players in the region and outside. In fact, Prime Minister Modi had also called President Prime Minister Modi had called President Pezeshkian and said that it should end soon, and that's in the interest of world peace. But we'll see where this goes, because the signals emanating out of West Asia is that there is no end in sight, at least in the near future. Vinod Kumar, thank you very much for joining us for the moment and reporting from Dubai. The West Asia conflict has erupted into a full-blown global energy crisis, with the closure of a critical oil choke point threatening supply chains worldwide. As tensions escalate between Iran and Israel and the United States, the US signals a possible military pullback. The geopolitical and economic fallout is intensifying. 22 countries say they would contribute to efforts ensuring safe passage in the Strait of Hormuz, but there's a catch there. They say appropriate measures. Take a look at this report.
The escalating conflict in West Asia has plunged the global energy system into a crisis of unprecedented scale. The effective closure of the Strait of Hormuz, a vital artery for nearly 20% of the world's oil and liquefied natural gas, has severely disrupted the global supply chains since US and Israeli strikes on Iran on February 28th. After 3 weeks of intensifying conflict, marked by soaring energy prices, the blockade of key maritime routes, and mounting strain on US alliances, US President Donald Trump signaled a potential shift in strategy. In a post on social media, Trump wrote that we are getting very close to meeting our objectives as we consider winding down our great military efforts in the Middle East. The Hormuz Strait will have to be guarded and policed as necessary by other nations who use it. The United States does not, he added. Trump also slammed NATO allies as cowards for their reluctance to take a more active role in reopening and securing the waterway. The Strait of Hormuz remains effectively closed to most commercial shipping, amplifying global economic uncertainty. In response, more than 20 nations, primarily European countries, alongside Gulf states such as the UAE and Bahrain, have expressed readiness to participate in coordinated efforts to ensure safe passage. A joint statement from 22 countries strongly condemned Iran's actions, including attacks on civilian vessels and energy infrastructure, as well as the de facto blockade of the strait. Earlier, key US allies, including European nations, Japan and Canada, pledged support for ensuring maritime security. Countries such as Germany and France have emphasized that any military or security measures must be preceded by a cessation of hostilities. Meanwhile, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has initiated diplomatic efforts engaging Gulf nations and the European Council in discussions aimed at de-escalation. He has called for an immediate end to Iran's blockade and suggested that the UN could play a central role in safeguarding the waterway and facilitating a broader peace framework. Despite signals from Washington that the conflict may soon wind down, US Marines and amphibious units continue to be deployed to the region, while Iran has intensified its retaliatory campaign using missiles and armed drones. These strikes have targeted neighboring Gulf states and reinforced the near-total shutdown of the Strait of Hormuz. As the conflict drags on, the situation remains volatile, with no clear resolution in sight and far-reaching consequences for global energy security and geopolitical stability. Bureau Report, DD India.
And Israeli tanks have been deployed near Lebanon border as tensions along the northern front continue to escalate. Hezbollah has intensified rocket fire into Israel, prompting strong retaliatory strikes on Beirut and southern Lebanon. The Iran-backed group entered the conflict following the Israel-US offensive against Iran last month, opening a new front in the region. In response, Israel has more than doubled its troop presence along the Lebanon border, signaling heightened readiness amid fears of a broader conflict. Saudi Arabia's foreign ministry on Saturday condemned Israel's strike on Syrian army camps as aggression, joining the other Arab nations calling on the international community to intervene. In a statement, Saudi Arabia's foreign ministry said that the kingdom condemns the blatant Israeli aggression, calling it a flagrant violation of international law and Syria's sovereignty. Israel's military said on Friday that it carried out strikes in southern Syria in response to what it called attacks against the Druze community in the Sweda province. Earlier, Egypt, Jordan, Qatar and Kuwait also condemned the strikes, stressing the need to uphold Syria's sovereignty and urging international community to prevent further escalation. The global energy crisis is intensifying as conflict in West Asia disrupts oil and gas flows, shaking economies from Washington to Brussels and driving Asia's major importers to implement urgent measures. With governments scrambling to secure supplies and safeguard trade routes, the ripple effects of the war are being felt in households, industries and markets worldwide. India's Rahul Upadhyay brings us more in this report.
Global energy markets are reeling as the war in West Asia continues unabated into its fourth week, sending oil and gas prices soaring and forcing governments across continents to scramble for solutions. The Trump administration has waived sanctions on Iranian oil purchases at sea for 30 days, aiming to ease skyrocketing oil prices triggered by the ongoing US-Israeli war on Iran. US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the waiver will bring nearly 140 million barrels of oil into global markets, helping relieve pressure on energy supply. The move reflects White House concerns that the surge in oil prices after nearly 4 weeks of strikes on Iran could hurt US businesses and consumers ahead of the November midterm elections. Meanwhile, Europe is also grappling with the energy shock. The European Commission has called upon member states to lower natural gas storage targets and refill reserves gradually to curb demand. EU Energy Commissioner Dan Jorgensen instructed member states to lower the filling target for their gas storage facilities to 80% of capacity, 10 percentage points below the EU's official targets. While Iran has allowed Japanese ships to transit the Strait of Hormuz, signaling a selective blockade of the strategic waterway. Japan, which relies on the strait for nearly 90% of its oil imports, has already released reserves to stabilize supply. Meanwhile, the government of India has rolled out a series of preparedness and response measures. With the Strait of Hormuz largely shut down, Indian refineries are operating at high capacity, backed by adequate crude inventories. Domestic LPG production has been ramped up to ensure households face no shortage. While the Indian shipping authorities are closely monitoring the situation in the Gulf to safeguard maritime trade routes and ensure uninterrupted cargo movement. Rahul Upadhyay's report for DD India.
And in a major step to ease fuel supply concerns amid the ongoing crisis, the Government of India has increased the allocation of commercial LPG to the states. In a letter to Chief Secretaries of the states, Petroleum Secretary Dr. Neeraj Mittal has announced an additional 20% allocation will come into effect from March 23rd, taking the total supply to 50% of the pre-crisis levels. The government has directed that this additional LPG be prioritized for essential sectors such as restaurants, dhabas, hotels, industrial canteens, food processing units, community kitchens, and also migrant workers. At the same time, strict conditions have been put in place. Commercial users must register with the oil marketing companies and also apply for piped natural gas or the PNG connections. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and US officials are set to hold talks in Miami on Saturday to prepare for a possible leaders' meeting focusing on multiple issues. The discussions are aimed at finalizing key bilateral agreements, especially a major drone defense deal, along with ensuring continued U.S. military support for Ukraine. The talks were originally planned as trilateral negotiations with Russia in the UAE, but were delayed due to the escalating Iran conflict. Miami meeting is being seen as a key step towards deeper cooperation and a possible Zelensky-Trump meeting. Meanwhile, a Russian drone strike destroyed a private house in southeastern Ukraine city of Zaporizhia on Saturday, killing a man, a woman, and injuring 2 children. Regional Governor Ivan Fedorov said that the attack is further evidence of targeted terror against civilians. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban has said that Hungary is facing pressure from both the EU and Ukraine. Speaking at a conference in Budapest, Viktor Orban alleged that the EU is threatening financial measures while Ukraine is restricting oil supplies, affecting Hungary. The remarks come ahead of the upcoming elections, where Orban faces a strong challenge from pro-EU leader Peter Magyar amid rising living costs and economic concerns in the country.
This battle, therefore, isn't just about Hungary, but also about who wins this match in Brussels. We Hungarians must win now while caught in a pincer movement. The Brussels progressives are squeezing Hungary from the west and the Ukrainians from the east. They are threatening financial sanctions from Brussels, and Kyiv has put Hungary under an oil blockade.
Diplomats from 13 European countries and Canada have condemned rising violence by Israeli settlers against Palestinians in the West Bank, calling it terror and calling upon Israeli authorities to act. According to the Palestinian Health Ministry, 6 Palestinians have been killed in settler attacks since early March. Israel's military chief, Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir, termed the surge in settler attacks as morally and ethically unacceptable. The diplomatic statement reflects growing international concern over escalating tensions and civilian casualties in West Bank. U.S. President Donald Trump's administration escalated the attacks on Harvard University on Friday as it sued the Ivy League school to recover billions of dollars for allegedly failing to protect Jewish and Israeli students. In a complaint filed in the Boston federal court, the U.S. Department of Justice said that Harvard remains deliberately indifferent to harassment of Jewish and Israeli students and has intentionally refused to enforce its campus rules when the victims are Jews or Israelis. Harvard will defend against the lawsuit and released a statement saying, in part, Harvard cares deeply about members of our Jewish and Israeli community and remains committed to ensuring they are embraced. India is advancing its science-led wildlife conservation efforts. Union Environment Minister Bhupendra Yadav chaired the 27th annual general meeting of the Wildlife Institute of India Society at the Indira Gandhi National Forest Academy in Dehradun on Sunday. The meeting reviewed the progress on key conservation initiatives and assessed implementation of decisions from the previous session. Updates include flagship species recovery programs such as the reintroduction of cheetahs, conservation breeding of the critically endangered Great Indian Bustard, and the long-term monitoring of wildlife crossings along major infrastructure corridors. These efforts highlight India's integral approach to balancing biodevelopment with biodiversity conservation, an issue of global importance as countries work to protect endangered species and maintain ecological connectivity amid expanding infrastructure. And still to come up on DD India Newshour, we discuss where the Iran war is going with special guests on the show.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you.
Every weapon would save your.
You read between the lines, cut the clutter, and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on DD India.
You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Amritpal Singh. Let's take a look at the headlines we're tracking at this hour. Prime Minister Modi speaks to Iran's president, calls for shipping lanes to remain open and secure, condemns the attacks on energy infrastructure. Trump signals possible winding down Iran war. 22 European and Gulf countries pledge support for safe passage to the Strait of Hormuz. UK says Iran fired missiles at the British-American Diego Garcia base in the Indian Ocean. US-Israel hit Iran's Natanz nuclear facility. No leakage of radioactive materials reported so far. And to talk more about where the war is going, I'm joined by Ashok Sajanhar. He's a former senior diplomat. And also on the show, I'm joined by Lieutenant General retired Sanjay Kulkarni, a veteran. He's a former Director General of the Infantry of Indian Army. Thank you both gentlemen for being on the show. Ambassador Sajanhar, let me begin with you first. As the third week is winding up, the war would be entering the fourth week. No end seems to be in sight. And also the confusing statements. One day Donald Trump says, well, we are winding up. The same day, the Israelis will say, well, expect increased attacks on Iran. The Iranian president will tell the Indian Prime Minister, we didn't start the war, we'll end it if they want to end it. What should we make out of it? Where is it all going?
Yeah, thank you very much, Amrit, for having me on the show. You're very right. The situation is very both confusing and complex. As far as Mr. Trump is concerned, there has been no final military objective that has been offered by him, and both President Trump and his ministers, they have been regularly and often changing what the end objective is. First it started with something like the change of regime. Then there was they also spoke about, capping the nuclear enrichment, not allowing Iran to have any nuclear enrichment possibilities, capacity. Then on the arsenal of missiles, on the range of missiles, then even as far as the terror proxies are concerned. So, it's been moving from one to the other. And we also heard what Marco Rubio had said, that, Israel was about to be attacked by Iran. Israel was about to attack Iran. And Iran would have hit back, and we had to get into this. So, I think there have been lots of conflicting statements that have been coming from the United States. But, as far as Mr. Trump is concerned, we know that he can get up any day. He's been saying that, much of my objectives, they have been achieved. I have obliterated, their military power, their top leadership, etc. So much of my objectives have been achieved. I don't know where else to hit. I don't know with whom to have any discussions.
Then, Ambassador, why is he sailing in Tripoli and another destroyer from the US with 5,000 Marines on board combined, if we look at it?
Yeah, you are absolutely right. I think he has mentioned very clearly that he doesn't want boots on the ground as far as Iran is concerned. There's been no, ground forces attack, but possibly he might be thinking of capturing the Kharg island, because that is where from where much of Iranian oil gets exported, and he might be landing these forces, USS Tripoli, and 5,000 some more troops are also coming in. So that is definitely a possibility.
So despite what he says, it looks like it's going to escalate.
It could, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely, there's a good possibility.
Okay. Let me bring in General Kulkarni in. General Kulkarni, today Natanz nuclear facility was attacked. It's a serious thing, though. I mean, the IAEA is saying that Iran's told them that there is no radioactive leakage there. But before we come to Natanz, the attacking of Diego Garcia, which happened yesterday, is something very, very interesting, because till now Iran itself claimed that the missiles that we have are just about 2,500 kilometer range. But now if Diego Garcia, which is about 3,800 kilometers away, that means they do possess the intermediate ballistic missiles, range ballistic missiles.
Thank you, Amit. What the ambassador has said, I couldn't have agreed more with him. Iran has actually created a flutter, and that kind of a thing was not expected, because everybody thought that Iran probably had current share with about 2,000, maybe max of 2,500, because it wanted to target Israel. But imagine today, when being able to, in an attempt to target Diego Garcia, 4,000 kilometers, of course, one of it got, sort of burst in the air, and the other one was intercepted even before it could touch. But the fact that it could go till there is indicative that suddenly the area of war seems to have got extended. The entire Europe has come into replay. Now, with that in mind, and with the kind of the surprises that Iran happens to be throwing, now, everybody thought that Iran wouldn't last for more than a week, max week. I think I may be a little more ambitious when I said week, but it's gone over 3 weeks, indicated that the more Iran gets pounded, the more Iran say nuclear facilities, missile facilities, all of them being bombed and virtually being obliterated, the morale of Iran seems to be going sky high. And they do seem to be in and out, even throwing surprises, maybe with the help of some of their friendly countries, because otherwise...
Okay, what friendly countries? What friendly countries?
There are 3 countries which could well be assisting: North Korea, Russia, and China. Now, if that be so, as a basket where they can expect help, or their own attempting, because most of their missile facilities are absolutely deeply tunneled inside. Now, what does that lead to? That means virtually the American forces with the aircraft carriers coming closer to Iran now have to go still further behind, because 4,000 kilometers range suddenly over this thing, attempting, even if it goes to 3,500, but should yet another surprise come with another 1,500 kilometers, it will suddenly find it become in the category of ICBM. Now, that's a problem which obviously the Americans wouldn't have ever catered for.
Exactly. That's put a different spin altogether on this. Ambassador Sajanhar, then the Americans were right that the Iranians have been lying. Their missile program needs to be capped because they have much more than what they claim. But, let's look at what the Kremlin puts out very interestingly. Putin has said that, let me read this. He said, Vladimir Putin, this is what the Kremlin has put out. Putin wished the Iranian people to overcome harsh trials with dignity and stressed that in this difficult time, Moscow remains a loyal friend and a reliable partner of Tehran. Is Moscow giving them something which we thought it wasn't earlier?
Yeah, well, during the interregnum, let's say from last year in June when the 12-day war started and, Iran was pounded by the B-2 bombers and bunker buster bombs, etc., from the United States. I think after that, the interregnum of about 9 months or so, Iran would definitely have received support both from from Russia.
Support in terms of military equipment.
Military equipment. And also at this moment, I think definitely as far as intelligence is concerned. Because otherwise, from Russia as also from China. So I don't think that Iran would have been able to sort of, send out its missiles with such precision as far as Israel is concerned, or even for that matter, of course, sending out to the Gulf states are much more short-range missiles that it has been, but it has been sending them with the accuracy. If you look at even on the other side of the Saudi Arabian Peninsula, on Yanbu, on the Red Sea, which it sent yesterday because Saudi Arabia was trying to ship its oil from there. And that also has fallen, with great precision. Even on the Haifa oil refinery in Israel, it has fallen with great precision. So definitely the Russian Federation and China would be helping out Iran in a big way. Right now, I don't think there would be any major supplies coming in because the seas are also not safe. But all this supplies in terms of the help, in terms of the chips and technology, etc., would definitely have come to Iran much more from China, in my view, over this period.
Okay.
Because Russia's hands are tied as far as the Ukraine conflict is concerned. But definitely intelligence at this moment must be coming in.
Must be coming in. All right. General Kulkarni, the IRBM, the intermediate range ballistic missile is one thing. Another interesting development happened. The Iranians were able to hit a F-35. Donald Trump says we've obliterated their AD. Let's, for a moment dismiss Trump's claim. But F-35 barely leaves a signature. So that means Iran has radars which are very, very sophisticated, much more than the world knew. It's surprising and interesting that they were able to hit a F-35.
But one really doesn't know whether it's a part of propaganda war or actually.
No, the Americans themselves said that 35 was hit. They are saying superficial damage. The pilot was able to land it at an American base. But the very fact of detecting a 35 and then having the AD systems to actually hit a 35.
Yeah, definitely. It's a huge setback to the American intelligence. There's no denying the fact, because if you say that the air defense of theirs has absolutely been obliterated, neutralized at the very first day of the war, and they almost had air supremacy over the skies of Iran. But as what one can come to a conclusion, that they are getting actionable intelligence. And that actionable intelligence, along with the kind of missiles they have, now with the additional extended ranges of the missiles they have, the way they're targeting not only Israel, but they're also targeting with precision the GCC countries and just the neighbors virtually. It is indicative that yes, Iran seems to be getting, and that itself is indicative for what the high morale of Iran is. The basic cause of it is the actionable intelligence and the availability of the missiles with them. And now with an extended range, positively, the Iran's morale goes sky high, thinking that they've taken it 3 weeks and maybe much more now.
Yeah. So, Ambassador Sajanhar, my final question to you. When the Ukraine war started, everybody thought Ukraine wouldn't be able to stand up to Russia. It's a matter of, days, weeks, it'll be over. It's dragged on for a while. Had it just been Ukraine-Russia, then it would have been over in days and weeks. It is Ukraine plus and Russia. Here it seems it isn't US-Israel versus Iran, it's Iran plus. And I'm not just talking about the proxies here. But there is one minus here. Their proxy, the Houthis, they haven't entered the theater. What is Iran keeping that card for? When is Iran keeping that card for?
Yeah, maybe, the possibilities are very many, even as far as the Houthis are concerned. They might also be even thinking of, carving out a space for themselves in Yemen. That could be part of the reason. The other could be that Iran has told them to go slow because Hamas is no longer existing there. As far as Hezbollah is concerned, it is receiving a huge pummeling at the hands of Israel. And so maybe Iran is waiting for an appropriate opportunity, because here also you see, Amrit, that even as far as the missile that has gone towards Diego Garcia, the two missiles that have been sent out today, they have been sent out after 3 weeks of the conflict has been over. So it is not that, Iran is taking out all of its arsenal right on the first day, meaning that is what the thinking was, that in first big blast, Iran is going to come out and much of its missiles stocks are going to get depleted. And that will be the time when, the United States and Israel will be able to have a stranglehold as far as Iran is concerned. That has not happened. Iran is, calibrating as far as its response is concerned. And it is, introducing different missiles and more missiles as it goes along. And possibly this is another, weapon in its armor, that is the Houthis, which it could start utilizing. And we know that Houthis have hit out against Saudi Arabia. Houthis have hit out also against the United Arab Emirates when the war was going on between them. So Houthis have these missiles which they can hit and send to Israel and to many of the other Gulf states. So possibly...
So it's an arrow in Iran's armor which it will pull out when the time arrives.
Yes.
Well, from all that, it seems this is not ending anytime soon. And that doesn't augur well for, of course, world peace, but then global supply chains, the economy per se.
And energy supplies.
Energy supplies, true.
Yes.
And then result in food inflation. The world,
absolutely.
if it carries on too long, we could go into recession. The world could go into recession.
Indeed.
That's not good news. But we leave it there. Thank you both gentlemen, Ambassador Sajanhar and General Kulkarni. Always a pleasure to have you on my show. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amrit. Thank you.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi today shared an article authored by the Union Minister C.R. Patil, which outlines India's comprehensive vision for achieving a water-secure future. In a social media post, Mr. Modi noted that the article highlights that India's approach to water governance is built on a foundation of conservation, sustainable use and active community involvement. He added that the article further underscores how the creation of the Jal Shakti Ministry marked a decisive shift towards holistic and integrated water management across the country. Celebrations for the Parsi New Year, Navroz, are being held across the world, marking arrival of spring. In Mumbai, the Parsi community marked the day with prayers, rituals and festive gatherings. DD India's Adamya Mishra brings us more.
Celebrated by millions across the world, the Parsi New Year Navroz marks the arrival of spring and the beginning of a new year rooted in ancient traditions. Navroz, which means new day, falls on the spring equinox, usually on March 20 or 21st, when day and night are nearly equal, symbolizing balance in nature. The festival is more than 3,000 years old, with roots in ancient Persian and Zoroastrian traditions, and is now celebrated by around 300 million people across Iran, Central Asia, the Middle East, and communities worldwide. Prime Minister Narendra Modi took to social media to offer his greetings on the occasion, saying he prays for a year filled with prosperity and joy. The Parsi community in India's Mumbai celebrated the festival by visiting the local fire temple in the Dadar Parsi colony, offering prayers, wearing new clothes and exchanging greetings.
Today's Navroz festival, we Parsi celebrate. In morning we go to fire temple to worship God, and then we go for lunch and dinner. In evening we have a program in Parsi Gymkhana, prayers and function. So we celebrate like that.
Meanwhile, Kurds in Syria marked Navroz with bonfires, dancing and flag waving in Damascus and the countryside of Afrin. From ancient customs to modern-day gatherings, Navroz continues to bring people together, celebrating life, renewal and the promise of a fresh start. Adamya Mishra's report for DD India.
And Saturday marks the third day of the Chaitra Navratri. The third day of the Navratri is devoted to Ma Chandra Ghanta, who is revered for bringing peace, prosperity and courage and symbolizes the elimination of negativity. She embodies both bravery and calmness and is commonly linked with the color of royal blue. And Saturday was also Eid-ul-Fitr. Across India, devotees gathered at the mosques and Eidgahs to offer prayers on Eid-ul-Fitr, marking the end of the month-long fasting of Ramzan. Scenes of devotion were witnessed from Jammu to Delhi to Varanasi, Jaipur, Bhopal, Mumbai, Kolkata, Tamil Nadu. Worshippers exchanged greetings, embraced one another and prayed for peace, unity and prosperity. Take a look.
A large number of people gathered at mosques and Eidgahs in towns and cities across the country to offer prayers on the occasion of Eid-ul-Fitr, marking the end of the holy month of Ramzan. In Jammu, devotees gathered in large numbers at the local Eidgah to offer special prayers on the occasion. The atmosphere was filled with religious fervor as worshippers marked the festival with devotion and prayers for peace and prosperity. In the national capital, Delhi, large crowds gathered at the historic Jama Masjid to offer Eid prayers. Moments after the namaz, worshippers across age groups embraced one another, symbolizing forgiveness, unity and brotherhood, a central message of the festival.
पूरे साल में जो हमें एक बार महीना आता है रमज़ानुल मुबारक का, जिस महीने में हम 30 रोज़े रखते हैं और इस रोज़े रखने के बाद जो हमें ये ईद का चांद देखने को मिलता है और उसके बाद हमें यहाँ आने का मौका मिलता है कि हम अपने यहाँ अहले रिश्तेदार सब दुश्मनों को एक दूसरे को एक साथ मिलकर गले लगाते हैं, सब गिले शिकवे सब दूर कर देते हैं और भाईचारे की तरह एक दूसरे के साथ मिलजुल कर रहते हैं.
In Uttar Pradesh, scenes of devotion unfolded as worshippers bowed their heads in prayer at the Shah Jamal Eidgah in Aligarh. Further east, in the spiritual city of Varanasi, large congregations gathered at the historic Jama Masjid to offer Eid namaz, marking the festival with faith and reverence. Celebrations were equally vibrant in Bhopal, where devotees thanked the Almighty for a peaceful and fulfilling Ramzan and prayed for harmony and prosperity. In Mumbai, thousands gathered at the YMCA Mohammad Hussain ground near Mumbai Central, as well as the iconic Minara Masjid area to offer Eid prayers, marking the culmination of the holy month of fasting. And in the southern state of Tamil Nadu, the spirit of Eid was equally visible, with special prayers held in Chennai, while in Tiruchirappalli, large congregations gathered at a private school ground in the Marakadai area for namaz.
And President Draupadi Murmu extended her greetings to the countrymen. In a post on X, the President wrote, and I quote, "Heartiest congratulations to fellow citizens, especially Muslim sisters and brothers, on the blessed occasion of Eid-ul-Fitr. This festival imparts the lesson of self-restraint, service, philanthropy, and compassion towards the underprivileged sections. Let's, on this occasion, resolve to strengthen society and the nation." Unquote. And Prime Minister Modi also extended greetings on Eid-ul-Fitr and wished that this day further the brotherhood and kindness all around the world. He said, "May everyone be happy and healthy." India is steadily emerging as a promising hub for golf, with the sport witnessing rapid growth across the country. In an exclusive conversation with DD India correspondent Narayan Singh, PGTI CEO Amandeep Singh Jol highlighted the immense potential golf holds in India, noting that it's now one of the fastest growing sports, attracting players across all age groups.
Professional Golf Tour of India has taken the Indian golf to new heights in the last decade, and right now joining me, the CEO of the PGTI, Amandeep Jol. Sir, a very warm welcome. If we talk about the Indian golf in the past decade, we saw the multiple tournaments took place and we saw a stupendous rise of the Indian golf. So how you look this journey?
I think it's the fastest growing sport in India. Definitely after cricket. I mean, cricket is far too ahead, but I think golf has a huge potential. One, because it's also a sport, it's also a game, and played by many people of all walks of life. So youngest to oldest can play the game.
Kapil Dev sir also associated with the PGTI, and we have seen that his interest and the kind of motivation he is providing to the PGTI and the Indian golf. So how you look his role being associated with the game?
He has brought in the interest in the game. People know him, and now if he's playing golf, people in India are saying, listen, a cricketer of legendary status is playing golf. In the foreign countries, every cricketer is playing golf to relax, to focus, re-energize.
When we talk about golf, a thing that strikes our mind, it's meant for the elite class. But do you have some plans to take the sports to the people with humble backgrounds, and so that the young and the youth of the country get an opportunity to get associated with the game?
It's a complete myth that golf is an elite game. I am from a very humble background. My father used to work for the government in Chandigarh, and we couldn't afford the game. But we were able to play because it is not so expensive. Golfers in golf clubs are big philanthropists. They tend to help people. In PGTI, we have so many professionals from different clubs, from the humble backgrounds who have come up. The Ashok Kumar and the Rashid Khans and the Ali Shers. There is such fantastic story from rags to riches. So golf, like cricket, it is not an elite sport. It is maybe an elite game. Like cricket was also a Raja Maharaja ki game. But game is elitist. Sport is not elitist.
As the CEO of the PGTI said that golf is not only the elite games, but he also shared the thoughts that it is also about the rags to riches stories. Many golfers are there who has played the golf for India and took the game at the next level, hoping that the journey of the PGTI will continue and will bring more golf tournaments and more golfers in front of the country. With camera person Praveen, Narayan Singh, DD India, Delhi.
And that's all in this edition of DD India Newshour, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR codes you see on your screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Amritpal Singh. For my entire team here in Delhi, thank you for watching DD India Newshour. Bye-bye.